Welcome to a new episode of Eckart's Interviews in Isolation. My name is Eckart Preu. I'm the music director of the Cincinnati Chamber Orchestra. Today I'm being joined by Coleman Itzkoff, a cellist who's won several competitions, who plays with orchestras across the country, a soloist, and is also a very passionate chamber musician. 2 years ago, we performed together Elgar's Cello Concerto with the Cincinnati Chamber Orchestra. Hi Coleman, welcome, so good to see you. And thank you for making time. So the first question, of course, is where are you self-isolating and what is the situation there?
Great to see you too, Eckart. I am in New York City on the front lines here. I'm very lucky to have an apartment to myself and one that is close to Central Park, so I can go on my daily sanity walks. This is, gosh, I've been holed up here since about March 9th. So, almost 2 months now. And I was actually, before the lockdown began, I think I experienced what is probably symptoms of COVID-19. So I went through 3 days of rather hellish fever, followed by a week of not being able to smell or taste my food, which those are the two of many key indicators. So I've been in this longer than some others, and I had it a lot better than some others, but it was brutal. It was not fun.
Yeah. And do you know if you had it, or is this just an assumption?
Tests are so hard to get. I've been calling and emailing and everything I can do. I'm purely basing it off of my symptoms, and but I'm fairly certain. And in a way, if it does turn out that I had it, psychologically it feels kind of okay now. It's not hanging over my head as it is in so many minds.
And I mean, what do you do in general to stay positive? You know, particularly when you're in New York apartments, they are not huge, and so what do you do to stay positive?
Well, I've read a lot of Stoic philosophy, so I feel like I've kind of been preparing for this all my life, reading Seneca and Marcus Aurelius and doing things also physically to help my body out. We're not moving a lot these days, so I make sure to get exercise 3 or 4 times a week. You can do a lot on your own with just body weight stuff, and I'm doing this program of Wim Hof, the Iceman, his breathing methods, which that's how I start my day, followed by a 10-minute session of meditation. So I'm really focusing on making sure my body is in the best state it can be, because I think it's all interconnected, right? And it's really important not to neglect that aspect of life. And then beyond that, limiting social media is super important. I know this is ironic because this is going to go out on social media, but I think it was a problem before this, and it's probably an even worse problem now, just with the amount that people are taking in. So just trying to be aware of how much I'm taking in and the quality of what I'm taking in.
Right.
Yeah.
And so with no concert on the near horizon, do you practice more? Do you practice less? If you do practice, why do you practice?
Yeah. Why do you practice? It's like that line in Rilke's Letters to a Young Poet. Must I write? In the deepest, darkest hour of the night, ask yourself, must I write? Must I practice? Must I cello? I found it to be, I'm going on a real journey with my cello playing these days, a real inner journey. I'm taking the time that I never had before to rethink a lot of aspects of technique, um, trying to build in relaxation into my body and see how that affects the flow of music from my body into the instrument. And taking the time, I'm doing a little Bach project, an independent Bach project of just playing all the suites and recording a movement every other day and posting those. And then I've got a few things going, a few projects going with friends, sharing recordings, sharing ideas for the future. So I've found myself quite occupied, actually, quite busy. It's scary to think maybe will we ever be able to perform in the same way again. But I try not to think too much about that and just focus on finding joy in my practice, which is if I didn't have that, I would be going insane. So I'm very grateful for that.
Right. I find it too that music actually gives me a certain access to sanity, because
Yeah.
it needs all your focus and there's no distraction allowed, and it kind of focus you on your inner self as well, and on something objectively good, So that's I like that. Now, so we performed the Elgar Concerto, I think 2 summers ago, in Cincinnati. So now you are from Cincinnati. Is that weird performing in your hometown, in front of your home crowd?
Weird. Weird. Yeah, I guess you could use the term weird. I felt there was a lot of feelings. There was a lot of family in the audience, teachers from my high school, colleagues from my youth orchestra days. It was surreal. It felt like a great homecoming and a great honor to be playing with you and to be playing with the orchestra. Yeah, that has to be one of the highlights of my concert career so far. And I've been reorganizing my one of my projects is to redo my website, which everyone's doing now that they have the time. And I was going through my Dropbox and I found our recording of that, and it's not bad.
No,
We
no.
did an okay
all right.
job.
We did all right.
I think I've had a gift of compartmentalization or like blind courage that when you go on stage, all of those things sort of melt away. Of course, they're in your stomach before and in your mind in the weeks and days before and hours before, but once you walk on stage, something triggers and you hopefully go into a state of flow and just pure music making where it's you're just delivering the message and trying not to think about your dad in the back row or whoever might be there judging you.
Yeah. And you mentioned something interesting, and that's like going back, kind of revisiting old performances and old tapes, and that's one of the scariest things. And so it's actually good if your schedule is such that you always go to the next. How do you feel? I mean, I'm a little bit scared always, like going back to old performances and listen to it from a kind of a third person's perspective. Do you do this regularly as a learning process, or rather not so much?
I do it quite a bit. I mean, I haven't been in school. I have been without a teacher for the past 2 years. So one of the most important objective tools is your iPhone voice memos. You can put it out in the hall and listen to the rehearsal, or in the practice room or wherever, and just adjust those things that you don't always catch in the practice room. Beyond that, when it comes to like listening back to performances, I find my mind so changeable that I barely believe it anymore. I barely believe if I think it's great, and I barely believe if I think it's horrible. Just because I literally will bounce back between very extreme poles, sometimes within the span of an hour, like posting these Bach videos on Facebook that I've been doing. Sometimes I can't believe I'm doing it, and I think it's ridiculous and I need to spend another lifetime working on this before I share it with anyone. And then the next I say, okay, not bad, Coleman. So there's a level at which I just simply don't trust myself, and I trust more that the truth of the music is to be found in the mind of the listener, not necessarily of the performer. At the beginning of all this, I was really excited by the notion of just being disconnected from the normal economic incentives to create. It's like getting back to the love, your love of Bergner, your love of music that got you there in the first place. And then the social media thing, the tidal wave of people posting happened, and that sort of replaced that incentive. And it's a fine line, it's a fine balance for me of I don't actually want to feel pressure to post. I want to take the time and follow these pathways because I feel like I'm growing a lot actually, and discovering a lot, and I want to share that, but I don't want to. I really covet it. I find it to be a sacred thing, and I don't want to spoil it by posting something too soon or feeling like I need to be an influencer in that way. Right. And also, it's like there is so much. It's so saturated that how many people are actually going to watch it? Not just how many people are going to see that you posted it, but take the time, the 5 minutes, and feel the whole thing, and dare I say, go back and listen to it again, because that's so it's I go back and forth with it. My mom put it best though, because I was having all sorts of reservations in my mind about posting stuff, and she was like, just shut up and post, Coleman. Like I paid for cello lessons for 20 years. I want my music. This is not about you. This is about me. This is about like your aunt who wants to hear you perform and who really enjoys this music and who gives you comments and says these help my day. They bring joy to my day. So I try not to think about it too much, and just it's like that critical ear thing we were talking about earlier. Just it's more about their reaction to it than ours. We can learn stuff. Of course, we can get information, data, but what's really important is their experience of the music that you're giving to them.
Besides, I mean, you're obviously a great cellist. What else are you good at?
Oh gosh, what else am I good at? Well, I used to be pretty athletic. I used to skateboard a lot, and I found a lot of joy out of that. The independence of it, the rawness of it, the danger of it. There's not a lot of danger in cello playing. So I feel like skateboarding taught me how to fail. It taught me the importance of failing, the amount of times that you fall down in order for that one time that you nail the trick or whatever. You can translate so much of that into your playing. But the answer is really that I'm not good at much else except for playing cello. That's the real answer.
Do you cook?
I cook, yeah. But I mean, I can cook a nice meal. I think I'm pretty utilitarian when it comes to food. I appreciate great food, and I love my friends who take time and who are all making extravagant sourdoughs and these great meals that they're all posting on social media. I don't have that kind of patience or interest naturally. I'm just more functional, like give me the nutrients and let me get back to whatever else I'm working on. But you have to cook. You have to cook nowadays.
You're my brother there, so whenever I cook, it has to be 10 minutes or less.
Right.
I'm very impatient. Well, thank you, Coleman, so much for the conversation. Stay safe in New York City. Thank you. you.